All right, everyone, it's quarantine time, so what better time to answer the most asked question? And that is the wheel tire specs on Nightmare ZL1. So let's get right into it. I'm going to try to make this really short and concise. I don't like making long videos, but it just happens that way. So let's get started. So this is really going to be dependent on what your rear end setup is. I'm going to go into kind of measuring wheels and what you should be considering. But so I have a Moser 12 bolt rear end package. It's got this lip right here that the wheel would normally sit on, the HUBCENTRIC wheel. So these I got off of eBay. They didn't fit exactly. I had Doug machine them. So now we got a HUBCENTRIC, and that means it's not moving. It's not relying on the studs to sit still. It's sitting on the rear end. So it's HUBCENTRIC, and then it also has a HUBCENTRIC lip right here for the wheel to sit on. Okay, so this one is a 12 millimeter, and then that resolves my spacing issue. I'm not having to have a huge thick spacer out to here that bolts on, then I have to bolt the wheel. I didn't want to have to deal with that, especially quote unquote race car. Not really, but if you're swapping tires and stuff, you don't have to deal with that. So that's a big, your spacing here in and out is going to be dependent on your rear end setup, of course, with the offset of the wheel. Now, as far as the third gen Camaro goes, what customization was done to fit a big old 315 tire? So the lip was rolled, the fender was rolled, you can see. Okay, Telly did all that nice clean work when he had the body in, and then they gave me an air hammer. They probably shouldn't have done that, but this is actually fresh paint because I did get some rubbing. Again, we're always testing and tuning, and I'll actually say that rubbing is more likely due to the fact that the driver's side was more inward than the passenger side. So that adjustment I did with the Watts link, I'll do a video on that later. But you want to kind of hammer all of this in. This is kind of the biggest thing that gets in the way. This lip down here actually pokes out almost like straight. This was pushed in. You want to follow it around here. There's the next problem right here. We cut this off. It's like a little lip, so just get that cut off clean. This is not too much of an issue. Didn't have to adjust that, and then the rest of the wheel well is pretty much hollow. So your biggest issues are up front here is what's going to limit you. And as long as you can press that in, get it with, I used an air hammer, and that kind of gave it the best smooth, kind of consistent push in. There's some points here that are hollow and some points that have actual bracing. So you got to be careful not to just all of a sudden hit a hole through the whole thing. So that's kind of the basics on the customization. This isn't mini tubbed or anything like that. It is still requires some fab work, someone that's not going to mess up your fenders when they roll them to get you some extra space up there. So that is the rear for the most part. Now let's look at the tire. So this is a 315. The exact size is, of course, an 18 by, Corona's killing me. So the exact size is a 315, 30, 18. That's going to keep your diameter the same, and I'll talk about some tools and put them in the links as far as measuring tires, diameter, width, and all that to help you figure out what you need to do to get your stuff to fit. But that's kind of that's the thickness of the tire right here. And it's a nice thick tire, and I still spin them. It's just freaking awesome. So that is the rear. It's actually quite simple. The front is actually the worst part. So let's go there. So before we go to the front, I'm going to try to show you the best I can what the clearance looks like. And there is plenty of clearance. This is a ride height. As you know, the car is on a 4-post lift. So this is kind of what it looks like. There is clearance for the tires to go in and out as they naturally will. Even with a Watts link, they're going to move in and out with a live axle. Not as much as with a panhard bar. So we'll go to the other side really quick. see if I can get you guys a good shot. This side's actually a little closer. I did make some adjustments because this side, the tire was actually popping out from under the fender. We'll see if it rubs or anything, and I'll make some adjustments there. Going with the air hammer. So far, just looking at the rear, my advice to you is every car is different, no matter how much they are the same. Like I said, my car has a Moser 12-volt rear end in it. What I would start off is go with the current tire you have now. Do your measurements. You're going to want to measure how much more room can you come out from your current tire setup. So previously I had those IROC replica wheels. They were 8-inch wide. These are 10.5. I'll show you, I'll put links down to the calculators that you can kind of understand how you can get that hella flush look. Don't forget about your tires. It's not just about the wheels. The tires will stick out further than the wheels. I made that mistake. Guys, I made custom wheels and they didn't work. I luckily sold them. So going to the front, I don't think I'm going to need to take the front off. The front also has a spacer, HUBCENTRIC, like we were talking about earlier. This one's a little bit bigger. It's 15 millimeters. The wheel is 18 by 9.5 plus 22 millimeter off spacing. The lug nut size is the same. The studs are 3 inches. Now this is where we didn't really, like you can see, I'm having some rubbing right here. So it's not too bad because it's just plastic. I did lose a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot of steering angle. You know, third gen Camaros don't steer very well anyways. They make U-turns like trucks, but that's where you just add power to the rear wheels and make a tighter U-turn. So let's go down under. Okay, here was one of the first interesting things. The steering, bump steer kit. Normally the steering arms would be way out here, push in over here. You'd probably have some room to even go inside the wheel. But with a bump steer kit, I'm not going to get too much into it, but you want this rod parallel with the A-arm. Otherwise, you're going to experience bump steer. We can get into that later. But notice how close this is. The other close point was a limiting factor is my coilovers. So if you're not running a coilover setup, you could probably go with 315. I've seen third gens with a 315 up front. It's not that it's impossible. It's just my setup with running coilovers, that is a limiting factor. Where if I just had a traditional spring in the pocket and just the shock up over here, you'd get an extra maybe, I don't know, I can't quote the spacing, but you'd lose the spring up there and you'd get some extra spacing. And that's what cars like, I'm assuming and taking a guess, that Detroit Speed is doing, because they still kept their spring pocket, which is adjustable, and that's how they adjust their ride height instead of a coilover. But 275 is a nice aggressive tire in the front for a third gen, I think. There really, like I said, no other issues here. It was just getting that the closest we can get to the coilover, measuring out the spacing, and we also had to cut this link for the sway bar shorter. These were much longer to get clearance from the tip of the sway bar right here to was actually would hit the shock. So fairly, I wouldn't say simple. But then one other thing, and I don't want to get too much into suspension on this video, but we also have Doug welded some stoppers right here. So that's kind of your steering limit, because otherwise the car would just keep going when it physically shouldn't, having these bigger tires on. So here's we're going to get into the next part, is kind of like, I wouldn't want to say science. I want to say science, but how you can measure your own wheels and some tips and tricks and all that good stuff. What I don't have here is what Telly had at the shop, is kind of like a little rig where you put it in a tire that's off of a wheel, and you can it helps you measure the offset of where exactly you want to be. Because what you're really thinking when you're thinking, oh, I want to buy, do these wheels fit? you should really actually be thinking, do those tires fit? Because the tire is always going to be bigger than the wheel unless you're one of those people that puts stretch tires for no reason. And don't even get me started about those. So let's try to go into some of the tools for sizing up tires. All right, guys, we're going to do this a little ghetto fashion. I'm just going to record right off the screen and show you guys some of the sites that can help you determine what you can fit on your car. So this is just a quick tire comparison site, tiresize.com. So as you can see, I'm comparing the size of the tire from my front, which is the 275/35/18, and the rear. So that way we can make sure we're getting a good diameter. One's not bigger than the other. They're about the same. Fronts are 25/6, rears are 25/4. You're not going to feel a difference in that. But if you're making one of them 25/6 and you can have bigger diameter tires in the rear versus the front, I'm just saying, you want to match up what your car can handle. So originally the tire size I had on here, and I'm going to go into here, it was a 245. Now this is more comparison of the in and out movement. As you can see, it has the shock displayed. So let's take consideration the rear tire setup. So my original setup with those IROC replica wheels was I had a 245/40 tire with an 18-inch wheel, and the wheel had an offset of 0 millimeters. So that's kind of the picture right there, that the orange line is what the new tire would be. Now, the new tire is a 315/30/18 with a wheel with 22 millimeter offset. However, we have a spacer in there. So what we have to do is account for how much we can move this in and out. And with a 12 millimeter spacer, we'd actually be taking away 12 millimeters. And then we'll take it, compare, and you'll see how it moved out. So that's how, with the original tire setup, I was kind of inside the fender well, and that's how you can see where you're going to move in and out and what kind of space you have. It's also going to give you more detailed measurements once my crap top starts to concentrate and work with me, of everything between the width of the tire and all that. And then up here, this is the really good information, is how closer or farther you are from certain parts of the car. This is where you're gonna have to physically get in there and start measuring things. You won't believe how many times I was measuring, taking all kinds of different measurements to see what these tires and wheels will fit. So this is a good tool to kind of figure out, okay, your current wheels obviously fit. How much room do you have to go inside? Measure that from the lowest point, which for me, as you remember, was that front inner fender well for the rears. See how much space you have to go with. See how much space you have in the fender well area that you can come out with without them sticking out. And think of the tire. This is where I made my mistake. I was thinking more of the wheel rather than the tire. And I ended up with a wheel setup that would have stuck. I had the wheel flush, but then once you get the tire on it, it's coming out to here. So as you can see, the wheel is over here, then you get some tire. So I messed up on my first set of wheels. This is why I'm doing this video primarily, so help other people out, not mess up, hopefully. Or maybe I'm confusing people, I don't know. Comment and maybe I can help you out further. But so this is a good tool. Again, the link is in the description. Another good tool, just so you have that, is wheel-size.com, and this will pretty much show you to some certain accuracy, what your OEM wheels are if you're not sure what size your OEM wheels are, and some of the information on those. Guys and gals, whoever's watching, I hope this video helped you out and at least gave you some insight to what you should be considering when trying to increase your wheel and tire size on your third gen or any car really. In the future, I will be getting another set of ESR wheels, most likely just 2 for the back for things like drift events. Maybe having a thinner wheel and tire obviously is something you're going to want. Again, the fronts are 9.5, the rears are 10.5. I'm going to need something thinner for drifting for the rears. And it's also just good to have extra sets of wheels and tires if you're going to do any racing events. And I might do a video in the future for that thinner wheel, because I'm gonna still want it to look hella flush and not just kind of tucked in there. We want to make sure it's measured and it looks good and performs. So drop any questions in the comments. I hope this video kind of explained most of it. Hopefully I survive this possible corona I have, because I usually never get sick, and the nightmare can continue. Stay safe out there for everything, and let me know what you guys think, and check out those tools if you have questions. Like, I'm here to help. Car life is all day, every day, and that's not gonna stop. Remember to subscribe, hit that little notification bell, do whatever it is YouTube wants you to do so you can remember to watch my videos. But really, at the end of the day, just watch my videos and tell me if they suck, because I'll try to make them better. Flip you guys back at the car. I know you guys want to see the car. I know you guys want to see this car move. So yeah, just let me know what you guys want to see next. The wheels were the biggest question. I hope that answered the wheel question. I will answer wheel questions in the comments if you have more. And if you see something, or I think the next video, what was the next video? I don't know. You guys tell me.